Hello, everybody. We're going to start off chapter 9, which is cell division. Okay. Yes, biology. The only place where division equals multiplication. Okay. Sorry, biology joke. Anyway, so in the first part here, we're going to talk about why do cells divide. Okay. And part of that is for reproduction, okay, which is the multiplication part. And part of it is to pass on genetic info. And part of it is to grow your sweet little bodies. Okay, so here we go. Why do cells divide? Cells reproduce, okay, multiply by cell division. Again, multiplication equals division. And in cell division, a parent cell, here's my parent cell, P, will divide and give rise to two daughter cells. Okay, daughter cell number 1, daughter cell number 2. Okay, and the cool thing about cell division is that for mitosis, so we'll kind of skip down here for a second. So hereditary information, and again, I said in the previous, right, pass on genetic info. And that's, again, is our hereditary information. We're going to go through DNA again in just a sec. It says here, hereditary information is usually identical. All right. And there are two types of cell division. First one is mitosis. And the second one is meiosis. Okay. Mitosis, when you start off with a parent cell, you get two genetically identical daughter cells. Identical daughter cells. Meiosis, you do not. They are different genetically. Okay, this is why the word usually is here. Okay, but mitosis happens way more often than meiosis. Okay, so when we have mitosis, two genetically identical, meiosis, they're different genetically. But the most important part is that each daughter cell receives a complete set of hereditary information. Muy importante. And we're going to talk about what that means now. So we're transmitting hereditary information. Cell division takes hereditary information, which is my DNA, from the parent cell and passes it on to two daughter cells. Okay, let's do a little DNA review. Blah, 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 deoxyribonucleic acid. Each DNA molecule is a long chain composed of subunits called nucleotides. We all know what a nucleotide is about. It has a phosphate group, 5' phosphate, a sugar. In the case of DNA, it's deoxyribose, and one of 4 bases. And our nitrogenous bases are adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. If we remember, of course, our Chargaff rules of base pairing, adenine base pairs with anyone? Thymine. And guanine base pairs with anyone? Cytosine. DNA is arranged in chromosomes. For eukaryotes, okay, it's a linear chromosome. For prokaryotes, it's a circular chromosome. But all chromosomes have 2 long strands of nucleotides that are twisted and wound around each other. And this is called a double helix. We got a picture in just a second. The units of inheritance, which are called genes, okay, are segments of these chromosomes, of these pieces of DNA. First of all, I want to get down, if you see the word gene, what I want you to think in your mind, the definition of a gene is a unit of heritable genetic information. Okay, that's what you should know as your definition of a gene. All right, and genes are small segments of a chromosome, small stretches of DNA. Okay, so a chromosome can have many, many genes on it. Okay, we'll go through in class the whole chromosome, chromatin, chromatid, blah, blah, blah thing again. But for now, just kind of take my word for it. We're going to go with this. All right, so let's look at that double helix. Boom, there it is. Here we have, here's one strand. And again, here's one strand, here's the other strand. We have our nucleotide, okay, 5' phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar. Here's our backbone. And then we're always going to have the 3' hydroxyl at the other end. And then our nitrogenous bases are sticking out into the center, okay? And the two strands of DNA in a double helix are what we call complementary. I don't think that we have used that word yet. Have we? But basically, we've taught the concept. What that means is that one side of the strand, so here we're kind of looking at this little section here, A, C, A, C, A, T, A, C, A, T. So if one strand has the sequence A, C, A, T, the other strand is complementary to it, which means it base pairs up. So if there's an A on this side, there's a T on the other side. There's a C on this side, there's a G on the other side. Okay, A, T, T, A, so on and so forth. We could go on forever, and sometimes DNA does. But that's what complementary means. And the two strands of a double helix are complementary. Then they kind of twist around each other and form this helix. All right, so in a gene, okay, the specific sequence of nucleotides, the DNA sequence, A, T, G, C, C, A, T, 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 A, G, whatever, that spells the instructions for making a protein, okay? When we get to, I think it's chapter 11 or 12, about transcription and translation, we'll get much more detail into how this works, but for now, that's all you need to know. Okay, when a cell divides, okay, it needs to replicate all of its DNA so that it has two identical copies. And each daughter cell receives one of the two copies. So I have my parent cell, copies its DNA, and so here's its DNA, it has one copy, and then it makes another copy, and then it passes down one of those to each daughter cell. So they have identical copies. All right, and so this is like, and we need to do this because, you know, you can't just, making two cells, you can't just like tear your DNA in half and give it one half to each cell. It has to be a whole set. So say if I gave you guys a handout to do for homework, it's not like I can just bring in my handout and tear it into 13 pieces and pass a piece out to each of you. You don't have the complete handout. So this is why a cell has to replicate its DNA before it divides so that it has a complete set. So if I want to give you guys a handout, I have to replicate it. I have to copy it so I can give you each a complete set. Okay, so cell division always has to be preceded by replication. So replication of DNA must occur before a cell can divide. Damn it, Aspen. Stop it. Good dog. D-E. Before a cell can divide. Okay, well, I'm going to say that like a billion times, but you'll get it. All right, and here it says again, cell division is required for growth and development. Well, not exactly. Cell division is required for growth and development. Okay, so let's switch gears back to cell division. Okay, eukaryotic cells grow, reproduce, develop, all by cell division. This is where organisms grow or increase in number. So you start off and you're born as a little baby, little human, and you got bigger, right? None of you are the same size you were as the day you were born. Hopefully, you're all much bigger now. That's because your cells divided. You grew. Your bones grew. Your skin grew. Your organs grew. Everything grew. Okay. After cell division, sometimes the daughter cells can differentiate or change and become more specialized, right? We all started off as one cell, a zygote. And then that cell divided and gave rise to different kinds of cells, okay? Liver cells, blood cells, bone cells, skin cells, hair cells, nerve cells, all kinds of different cells. And the repeating pattern of when cells divide, grow, and differentiate, divide, grow, and differentiate. That is called the cell cycle. And then there's going to be a whole nother screencast on just the cell cycle. So get excited for that.